welcome everybody back to another episode of the Handsome Homebuyer Podcast. My name is Charles, aka the Handsome Homebuyer, aka Captain Permit, aka
El Judío Maravilloso.
There's two more, aka
the LLS 2020 Man of the Year,
aka admirer in the most heterosexual way of Matt R. Visual's freaking hammer, which I just saw inside of his costume, and I was like, bro, you gotta holster that thing. You gotta wear a cup.
You gotta give them
something.
some context here.
All right. Before we go into all the craziness, Matt R. Visual, who's obviously the heart and soul of the Handsome Homebuyer brand. It's the day after Halloween. Actually, no, my birthday was on the 30th. I'm not born on Halloween, so it was 2 days ago.
Gotcha.
I just turned 40. We'll talk about that in a second. And a lot has happened since then. The first thing I realized, most importantly, is a half a pint of ice cream has a much greater impact on you than like 3 weeks of only eating salad. It's fucking nuts, bro. You could be like lean as shit, salad, all of a sudden you eat half a pint of ice cream,
Done.
You blow up with this big chunk of fat next to you, and you're just like, what the fuck?
That's what I got to look forward to.
Apparently, yeah. I had originally heard that at 35, like, shit starts to break. You start to get hair in places you didn't think you could ever grow them, like, out of your ear. Like, the other day, my girlfriend grabbed a hair from my ear that was literally, like, 6 inches long. And she's like,
it's repulsive.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Speaking of not repulsive for the ladies, what was I talking about?
Matt R. Visual's package.
No. All right. So Matt R. Visual goes trick-or-treating with his amazingly sexy and very cool wife and son. And he's wearing, what was your outfit, Matt?
I was Deadpool.
Yeah,
so it's very tight.
So it's very tight, obviously showing off like the rippedness that is Matt R. Visual. Matt and Val recently went to Val from Udar Kickboxing. Check him out at Udar.
Oh no.
Went to that body scanning thing.
Yeah.
What was your body fat percentage?
14%.
14%, just shredded. You got to check out the IG. He's doing a insane breakdancing number right now. But the point is, he's wearing this tight ass outfit, and the only thing I can notice, let me just say this before, I love women. Like, I love everything about them, all of it, right? But Matt R. Visual has this hammer. It like a tripod in between his legs that is just literally poking me in the eye.
What a way to start.
Through the picture. And I just couldn't help but say, Matt, what is that? It's a weapon. You're running around with freaking children. You could have poked somebody's eye out.
It was just part of the costume.
Every time I put Matt R. Visual on the spot, it's just like, it's just the costume, man. It's just a design. So they airbrushed that hammer on there. Anyway, all right. Awesome freaking show today. But, Maddie, before we go into that, do you know who else has a freaking hammer? Captain Permit. 516-513-8838. If you need plans, if you need permits, if you need anything permit-related, dealing with the building department, building a house, renovating a house, legalizing a house, anything, mortgage people, realtors, attorneys, we got you. And we have the most handsome man in the permit business backing it up, Mike. Can't promise he has the same package as Matt R. Visual because I haven't seen him in a tight-ass costume, but if and when I do, I will let you know. Obviously, I'm the Handsome Homebuyer. If you have a house that smells like cat pee, is dated from the 1960s, has 6 inches of mold on the wall, human waste floating past the basement steps, land, anything real estate related, gas stations, you name it. If God created it and it can't be moved, I want to buy it. 516-777 sold. Have you ever been on a podcast with an intro that went anywhere near that?
No.
Right?
Absolutely not.
Because I know you're on the podcast train, so now I feel like I need to up the bar so that at the end of this whole thing, you could be like, all those podcasts were dope, but the Handsome podcast was fucking insane.
So far, this is the most action-packed intro I've got. Yeah.
All right, definitely. So today's guest, not going to lie, don't know anything about him. We might even sort of be related in a weird way, but I don't know. I'm sticking with that, all right? Just let me stick with that. In my mind, it makes sense.
You're my brother-in-law's cousin's cousin.
Yes. What does that make us?
Nothing.
Okay.
Absolutely nothing.
Please establish.
We can say we're related. I'm going to say I'm related to Handsome Homebuyer.
Dude, throw it out there all day, every day. Mr. Eric Braun, this guy, again, I don't really know him, but I love his energy. I love what he's doing, and I'm like, I got to have him on the podcast because I feel like from this conversation, great ideas and greatness is just going to spin around the room. Maddie, do you feel that?
Yeah, I agree.
All right, perfect. So, Contour Mortgage loan originator / team leader. And as you guys have heard already, he has a deep, sexy, soulful voice. He's like the skinny white Barry White. Who is that?
Sure.
Is it Barry White?
I'm not sure, but yeah.
You know who Barry White is, right?
Yeah, Barry White. Sure.
You don't know who Barry White is. It's really depressing when you hit 40 and you realize that like 24-year-olds don't know who Barry White is. Founder of the brewery, right?
Yeah, brewery, yeah.
Brewery.
Yeah.
Got it.
It's multiple ways to say it.
Leader of the Defeat Average movement. 2 years in the business, crushing it. Looking dapper in that suit. Where'd you get that suit? Is that a suit supply suit?
Yeah.
It is? Yeah. See, I had that freaking feeling. 50 million in volume this year or last year?
This year.
This year, people, and the year's not over.
On pace to hit 50 million.
On pace to hit 50 million. So listen, if you're sitting in your house, in your car, in your office, hating your life, making excuses saying you can't get shit done, I have a 24-year-old Barry White in front of me who's lending $50 million this year. And what people might say is a declining market on the way to a recession. I would dare say we're already in a recession, but people throw shit at me when I do. We might talk about that later. Who knows what we're going to talk about? I think we've talked enough about Matt, our visuals hammer, so we'll leave that out for now. Eric Braun, Contour Mortgage.
Thank you.
That was 6 minutes of madness.
I appreciate the opportunity, seriously, for coming on.
No.
And I look forward to where it's going to go.
Who knows? Lord only knows, right? So here's the cool thing about turning 40, aside from the ice cream thing. The cool thing about turning 40 is you get like, you get this kind of psychic vibe about people. If you just open your mind and don't let your mind complicate your feelings, if that makes sense, you can like, you feel things like before they're going to happen. Does that ever happen for you?
Would it be young and dumb to say I feel like I was born that way?
No, I have my buddy Val is the same kind of thing. He's looked 40 since you look young, but he's looked 40 since he's like 18.
Yeah, I was gonna say I look 40. Oh,
No, you look young as hell. You got a good hairline. Let me see the top. Yeah, you're good.
I'm good.
You're good.
I'll be all right.
So you just kind of like know, it's like the unconscious subconscious. Did you just cross yourself on camera?
I blessed myself.
Like, this guy's talking about hammers. I gotta go to confession after this.
Yeah. I don't want to mess with the hairline.
You're blessing the hairline.
Yeah.
Nah,
God
it's okay.
forbid.
Dude, it doesn't matter.
God forbid.
I lost mine at like 28. And my dad lost his at like 21, so I was on borrowed time.
See, my father bicked his head. He's completely bald. And then my grandfather had hair till he passed away. So I'm hoping to
Was his hair like your hair?
My grandfather's?
Yeah. Like, you know
say
how you can like similar texture, all that stuff?
Yeah, I'd say similar. Yeah, wavy and...
Here's the good news, and this is what I'll tell you about 40. Doesn't matter if you have hair. Men are entirely more shallow than women. If that makes sense, right? So
they
like
care about more than hair.
Well, no. Women are about attractive qualities, but the qualities have nothing to do with your hair.
Gotcha.
It's other stuff. We're the shallow ones that just look at TNA.
Right.
Can we talk about TNA?
Yeah.
I know you're a religious man.
No.
So I don't want to cross the...
You're mixing up.
I don't even know.
I'm far from religious. I'd call myself spiritual, if anything. So
okay.
Religion is man-made.
So the point
TNA, tits and ass.
Yes, there we go.
Am I allowed to curse on here?
Yeah, there's no rules in the hand.
Cool.
Talking about Matt, our visual is hammer.
That's true. But hammer isn't a curse. Tits and ass. All right.
That's fine. There's no rules on the hands.
What a start. What a start to this.
Back to my original point. So, our relative came to one of my speaking engagements.
Yes, our relative.
And he's like, "Yo, you gotta meet my, of course he is. You gotta meet my brother-in-law." So it's going on this whole thing, and I looked at your IG. I'm like, "Bro, this kid's he's the man." I'm like, "I gotta meet him." And then we ran into each other at that
YPN.
Yeah, that YPN event.
Yeah.
Ask the Experts panel. I'm like, yo, you got to come on the podcast. I just felt it. You rolled up to me, dapper in the suit, Barry White voice, smooth, and I'm like, I don't know anything about this guy, but I know he's fucking cool, and we're going to figure it out on the podcast. So,
live. We'll do it live.
Exactly. We get to know each other live. So give me a little bit of background. Where you come from. I know that you live in South Hempstead, which is like the biggest untapped gem. It's one of my unicorns. Yeah. I have 2 unicorn towns that I can't get a house in. Doesn't matter what I do.
Yep.
Franklin Square and South Hempstead.
Yep, absolutely. So I'm from South Hempstead. I live there still. I I grew up a very normal upbringing. My father was a carpenter for a long time, and then he switched to be a FDNY paramedic after the recession. And yeah. So he's been doing that for years now. He actually works in the academy now, teaching other paramedics or soon to be paramedics and EMTs. So he's big into the EMS community. He's stationed in Brooklyn, and I was actually I was gonna follow in that. I did follow in his footsteps, and I became an EMT right out of high school. I didn't go to college. I did the volunteer EMS thing here in Long Island and South Hempstead, and then I kind of fell into the mortgage industry, and the rest is history. That's my little quick story. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that happened in between.
Curious to know, grandparents, what kind of industries were they in?
My grandfather was. He did a bunch of stuff. I mean, ranging from a barber to owners of gas stations to a truck driver, super Italian.
Are you Italian, 100%?
Yeah. Well, culturally, I'd say yes.
Okay.
Technically, I did the DNA test.
Okay.
I'm 74%.
What's the rest?
A mixture of 5% German.
Okay. Yeah, because you got blue eyes, man.
Yeah, 2% Middle Eastern. Yeah, but Italians.
Yeah, that could happen.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We were all over the place, Roman Empire stuff, and
so the only reason why I'm asking you kind of what your family's done. It's interesting.
Yeah.
So you have an entrepreneurial background.
Yeah, my grandfather was an entrepreneur. Okay. Definitely.
Because so in my thing, I was very fortunate. My dad was always in business, right? So I've talked to a lot of people and had a lot of people on the podcast who are so what you do is, I mean, you got balls to do it in the sense that no one's giving you a paycheck, bro.
Yep.
You basically eat what you kill, essentially.
Yep.
You are out there hustling, grinding,
100%.
Being a disruptor, being creative, 24/7, and you're not gonna make money. So a lot of people, for me, for example, even though my dad was always in business, when I was like, hey, I'm gonna sell my business and I'm gonna go flip houses, and he was always supportive and encouraging, but he's looking at me like, what the hell are you saying here right now? You have a stable situation, you own a business, everyone's always going to crash their car and need for it to get painted. What do you mean you're going to go out there, buy a house for X, renovate it for Y, and hope to God sell it for Z? And I did. So it's really hard for everybody to kind of break away from what they grew up with and what they've known. Right. So I'm curious to know how you took that leap, because that can be very uncomfortable.
Yeah. So like I said, I fell into the industry. It was something that I believe was God sent. It happened in that sort of way. It's sort of like a Wolf of Wall Street kind of story, where it's show me a paycheck for $60,000 and I'll quit my job right now.
Is that what happened?
That's not technically what happened, but I'll tell you this story. It is a cool story.
This is gonna be great.
I was 18, met an individual. I love cars. I have to tell you.
Oh, yeah?
I have to say that to give it some context. I love German
American
cars.
or foreign?
German.
Yeah?
So Audi, BMW, Mercedes.
Do you own a German car?
Correct, yes.
Did you buy the car or did you lease it?
Lease it.
Smart man.
Yeah.
Being in the car business, I will tell you this, and then we go back to it. German cars are the best cars ever until they hit 70,000 miles.
No,
so you got to sell them at 50.
I'm giving it back, yeah.
Keep it going.
And I learned that the hard way from owning multiple German cars and maintaining them past 100,000 miles. So it's, yeah. But I love cars, and I met this individual. I was 18. He drove a brand new Audi. To me, that means you're making money. I was 18.
You might not have any furniture in your house.
Yeah. It might be any gas in the tank. There's people like that too.
Might be living in his mother's basement.
Right, which he wasn't.
Got an Audi.
He wasn't. To full disclosure, he is still making good money. And I met this individual at 18, seen that he had an Audi. I was driving an Audi, but it was super old. It was a nice one. I missed that car to death. It was my first car. And we connected immediately over that. And we bonded, sort of. Fast forward 2 years into our relationship. So now I'm 20. He asked me one day, he's seen me, and he goes, "What are you doing for work?" I was like, "Nothing. I'm unemployed right now."
Yeah?
In fact, I was unable to maintain a job at that point in my life, which there's a whole nother story to that, which we can get into if you'd like. But I'm 20. I'm not working. He goes, "How about this? I'm going to buy a new car. I'm going to buy a brand new Audi A8. And to me, that's like, like an A8. Like
Yeah.
it has the
Pinnacle.
big number. Yeah.
Pinnacle of Audi.
Now it's like the perfect car for like a doctor or a lawyer. But anyway, he said, I'm gonna buy a brand new Audi A8. I want you to be my chauffeur. I was like, absolutely. When do I start? Like, that was a dream job to me. I'm gonna drive around, hang out with this cool guy in a brand new car. That sounds perfect. And he did that to me for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, every time I spoke to him, when are you gonna come drive for me? When are you gonna come be my chauffeur?
How were you in high school?
Rebellious. Yeah, I was a mess.
Okay.
Yeah, which we can get into. So after 2 weeks of kind of messing around with that, he told me, I'm just joking. How about you come to the office? I got a real job for you.
So you never drove for him?
No.
Okay.
He never bought the car either. I get to the office. I still don't know what he does at this point. I just know he drives a brand new car, and I don't have
What would
one.
he do? Call you and tell you this stuff? Like, how
Every
would you...
time I would see him in passing, I'd see him like once or twice a week in passing, and yeah.
How?
we'd talk
Just
on
like
the
he
phone.
lives in the area? Like
Same community.
Okay.
Yeah, same community.
So he grew up in South Hempstead.
Same community.
Okay, we're gonna get into this.
Yeah.
All right.
So, I go to the office. He puts an employment package in front of me. I ask him all these questions, like, all right, what am I going to be doing? He doesn't want to answer any of them, right? I fill out the employment package, and in 2 weeks, I was, he threw me on the phone. I started as a telemarketer during the refi boom a few years ago. So I was just telemarketing for refis.
Okay.
Worked my butt off. I'm talking about hundreds, if not thousands, of phone calls every single day.
Gotta stop you there.
And 2 years later, I get my license, and that's when it really took off for me.
So I think cold calling
Best way to start.
is one of the hardest things for people to do. Meaning, like, the fucking internal emotional torture that goes on when people are like, I have to call somebody. It's like, they don't even know who the fuck you are, man. They're not rejecting you. They're just somebody on the other line. How hard was that for you? And then how important was that for your sales development? Because I think that's huge.
It extremely, at this point in my life, where first full-time job, right? So that, to me, like, I don't know if you had a similar experience. Like, you go from working, weekends at a bagel store to 40 hours a week in an office, dressing up every day. That's a huge adjustment.
I went from working at a 7-Eleven and being a cocktail waiter at a male strip club on Friday and Saturday night to owning a Mako body shop. True story.
What a story.
True fucking story.
So just that adjustment of my first job growing up. I'm 20 years old. 20-year-olds are not very comfortable in their own skin, typically. On top of all the other stuff that was going on in my life. And so that was extremely difficult to me, to be thrown into that sort of atmosphere out of all things that I could have been doing. And then to answer your question about the development of my sales skills, I was always told, if you can go and get your own business specifically on the phone, you'll have no problem speaking to, let's say, a realtor or a developer or friends and family. Like, you get that skill down.
Anyway, yeah.
And you run, I mean, you're talking to hundreds of people a day, and you're coming across hundreds of different objections, I should say, facing rejection. It adjusts the learning curve, definitely. You take that skill on exponentially when you're thrown into that.
Yeah, so for me that, I mean, I was always a very, talkative guy, but I would say that probably happened for me in a 7-Eleven. So it's like, I worked in a 7-Eleven from the time I was 16 to 20, 21, something like that. And it's about being able to build rapport with people in the shortest period of time.
Yeah.
I was just doing this on my own.
Yeah.
I didn't know until I was, 40. But in the time that I'm at the register ringing them, I have to get them to essentially like me, have fun with me, and want to come back and build a bond from the moment they step to the counter to give me their $1.19 for their coffee and walk out the door. And I did that 1,000 times a day.
Right.
So I would argue that was more valuable than my college education.
I'd agree with you.
Because that's really what it's about, human communication. Especially, ironically, you've done that. You're a great communicator, and I mean, not to throw the millennial thing into there, but you're very young in a group of people or in a time where people don't freaking talk to each other.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and that's the highest paying skill. That's the highest paying skill is people skill. Like being able to build rapport with people instantly and take them through a process. That's the highest paying skill in the world.
Yeah, without a doubt.
That drives the economy. People like that drive the economy.
So before we delve into mortgages, I'm going to throw this out there, which will probably segue down a rabbit hole that I feel like we're going to go, which is I don't drink.
Okay.
I've never been drunk.
Yeah.
Never smoked a cigarette, never smoked weed, never taken any pills, nothing.
Right.
Very quick story about that, because people are always like, and the first thing people say to me when they find out, like when I was dating, I meet girls and they would look at me and they would be like, that makes me uncomfortable. I was like, I don't understand why. And then they would say, are you recovering? Right? That's what they would, every time. So when I was a kid, and even now, but I have ADHD, and I'm out of my fucking mind, obviously, right?
I mean, you take the intro to this podcast, it's
obviously
it's clear you need some help.
So I had a very big problem with school, like yourself. Teachers would throw me out.
Yeah.
I had one teacher that understood me, Miss Smithy, used to say, open the side door of the school and run around the freaking building, right? She's like, run around the building until you're like tired and then come back. So they wanted to put me on Ritalin. So I took Ritalin one time, and it turned me into a fucking zombie. So after that, I never took it again. I would always throw it down the drain when no one was looking. And I think that had such a profound impact on me, on top of the fact that my father saying, if you ever come home wasted, you'll never see the light of day other than to go to school and come home. So it seems like you had dealt with something at some point. If you want to share that.
Absolutely. So in high school, I was definitely insubordinate was all over my record, if you will. Like,
why?
Detention in school. I think, and my favorite line was and this is while I'm in high school. As a 16-year-old, I would tell teachers this: the education system doesn't measure true intelligence.
100%.
And I would say that over and over again.
Brilliant.
And I looking back on it, it's like I was pretty intelligent, right?
Super intelligent. And I could see them being like, this kid's a fucking asshole, but they don't even know.
But also, to their defense, I was an asshole. I was a little bit, full disclosure, I was not the to authority, maybe. Not that I was a bully to my classmates in any sense, but
you were a disruptor.
Yes, and obviously in a school system or any sort of organized thing, that's not the role model, right? That's who they normally try and execute, right?
Yes.
For lack of a better word.
Yes.
And I felt like the school was after me. Meanwhile, looking back, it was my behavior. I was not acting the way I should be acting, but probably because at the core of everything, I didn't want to be there and I didn't see the value of being there, right? Because I knew that I didn't want to have a regular job. Like my whole thing was I was going to join the military. Like
really?
I'm still super into all that stuff. Wanted to be a Marine my whole life, Navy SEAL, like all that. My father was in the military.
Okay.
Or he was a reservist, so he's in the Navy Reserves, and I always saw like him in camo was like that was like what I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Right. So my whole life I was going through an education system that wasn't obviously training me for that. It was probably training me to respect authority, but I didn't see it that way.
Why didn't you? Yeah, you just figured you were wasting your time until you were basically
Correct.
just wasting time until you got to that
Correct.
point.
And if you're in something that you don't see the value in, you're not going to behave the best.
No.
And there was two teachers. You mentioned that one teacher. There was two teachers that kind of understood that about me, and I'll be forever. I still talk to them today. Forever grateful, Mr. Gamache and Miss Burke.
So why didn't you go into the military?
That's where the other side of the story comes in, where.
Oh boy.
Yes.
When you clear, here it comes.
So I'm in recovery. So I struggled with substances from the beginning of high school all the way until after. When I became sober at 20, that's when that individual asked me.
Was he in a recovery group with you?
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when I said same community, I would see him once, twice, 3 times a week in that recovery community, and he obviously saw something in me that I didn't see myself, especially me being 20 years old, a few months sober. Like, I had no self-confidence. I was completely lost. Like I said, I didn't have a job because I lost every single one I had. And that's like sort of the short story, but it started off, Yeah,
I have two questions.
Yeah.
A, what led you down that road, and then ultimately what brought you out of it?
So I believe like addiction is a disease, right? So I have a genetic disposition to become addicted to substances, and addicted to everything, mortgages, work.
Yes.
And that's kind of the direction I head down now, which is, I don't know if that's healthy, but neither here nor there. But I believe, like, I'm different than the normal person that can go out on the weekend and drink successfully. I can't drink successfully. I end up in bad places, right? So
I like how you say successfully.
Yeah.
Successfully is usually like my buddy laying on a train platform drinking Goldschlager in a pile of his own vomit.
See, that's me.
True story.
I'm like your buddy. But that's my experience with substances, and it started off just like everybody's experience with substances, where I'm experimenting, right? So I'm 16 years old, 14 years old, smoking weed for the first time, and that's what my group of friends were doing. Me, I took it to the extreme. My whole identity changed. All of a sudden, I'm listening to Cypress Hills, and it becomes, everything about me becomes about substances, and that's what I think separates me. So that's kind of, to answer your question, that what's led me down that path. What got me out of it was being absolutely emotionally and spiritually bankrupt, and it drove me to the point where I threw up my hand and said, help.
Like literally rock bottom, as you say.
Yeah.
Like it, I'm sure that, like, obviously we don't have to go down to it in the interest of time and whatnot, but I'm sure that road was
intense.
It
was dark and living a life without purpose. And that's where, like, to come full circle and kind of segue, that's where all the defeat average stuff comes from. Like, because I was in that place, even a year into sobriety, I'm still kind of in that place. A year into my mortgage career.
So you've only been sober for a year?
No, right now. No.
Okay.
I've been 4 years.
Okay.
4 years.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I've never had a legal drink. So I got sober at 20. I'm 24 now.
You've never had a legal drink?
Yeah. August 22nd, 2000. Was it 15?
We should put that on a shirt.
Never had a legal. Yeah.
That's
that's not my phrase. Yeah, that's made up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, somebody made that up.
See, here's my thing. The first time you say something, you credit the person that you heard it from. After that, you can credit yourself. You can credit yourself. It gets watered down. So, it all. Now I'm really starting to understand.
That's
you a lot
how
more.
I branded myself as not your average lender. Because at first I said to myself.
So explain to everybody what the average defeat average movement is, so they get it.
So, at a year into my career, a year into my sobriety, I'm still lost. As I said, I'm thrown into a full-time, super stressful, high pressure sales job. Right? I'm facing rejection every single day, and naturally I start to question, like, what is this all about? Where am I going? Right? And when you ask yourself the most important questions, you get the most important answers. Like, who am I? What's the purpose of life? Even though that sounds dark, but it's really not.
No, it's not.
Where do I want to go? What do I truly love?
What makes you happy?
What makes me happy? All these questions I really soul searching, basically. And I looked around at all the examples that I had in life, especially within my peers, and I said to myself, I really don't want what they have. I don't want a job that I don't like. I don't want to be in a relationship that I don't want to be in. This one's married for X amount of years, but still isn't happy. Like, I didn't see many happy people, and it made me question and really take a bird's eye view. Like, everybody's living this average life, and I don't want to live that. And I know that's one of your, like, things that motivate, mantras, that it's like my mission statement is to remove average from real estate by adding value to consumers and professionals. But it really started by defeating average in my own life and my personal life, and then it translated into real estate. I'm going to do that in the real estate industry, where people don't communicate well. People don't pick up the phone. Like, how many times have you tried to call a realtor and they didn't pick up the phone?
Regular realtors, no problem. Commercial realtors, you guys never pick up the goddamn phone. Or call people back. Or send the survey that you were supposed to send me yesterday.
Why are
fucking people.
Why are the standards so low? Like, why, in my personal life, in everybody's personal life, why is everybody so happy with just the normal stuff, right? And then in real estate, why are the standards so low for customer service, for everything, right? And I want to bring those both up, personal life and real estate wise.
So, a couple things. Mine's going crazy, but this is one thing I want to point out. If you are listening to this podcast and you are established and you are 40 plus years old, this is the kind of, I've been having meetings and different things with people, and I'm like, listen, the real estate industry is broken. The commercial real estate world is broken. There's a lot of stuff there's a lot of opportunity. People are like, what are you talking about? I'm like, the older people that still have like 40, 45, 35, 50 even, who like have a track record but are like set in their old ways. I'm like, either you guys change or the young guns behind you are going to crush you. Because there is a movement of people like yourself that are younger that are growing up in a totally different world that are going to change everything, right? And you're a prime example of that. What you're doing.
That. Thank you.
So, what I want you to also explain is, so you had this moment, this epiphany, right? Maybe it was a number of different moments, yes. But a lot of people are in your position. Like I had like lunch or dinner with somebody similar kind of thing yesterday, who's like, I want to change my life. Everybody kind of like, they sort of know what they want, but they don't know how to start. So now you're in this moment, you have this epiphany or several, and you're like, I don't want to be average. I want to change my life. I want to do it in real estate. Great. So like, how do you get started? What's the plan? What do the next 3 or 4 years look like up to $50 million in loans?
Well, first and foremost, I have to get super serious, right? I was kind of playing with my career up until that point, right? So that means for me, like I have to, not only do I have to like set my target on a goal or a number, I have to write a detailed business plan on how I get there. Like on a day-to-day, what am I doing? How am I marketing myself? Social media was a huge part of that business plan.
Do you still do that today? Do you still operate like that today?
Every year.
Okay.
Every year, I kind of want to readjust the sites.
But how regimented are you? Like Juan Baronecci, right?
Yeah.
So Juan's in here. Juan's a savage, and he's like, my life is broken down into half an hour increments.
No.
I swear to God. He's like, look at my phone.
I do tons of business with Juan. I work with his whole team.
Shit.
So Juan's awesome. But I wouldn't say I'm that. One of the things I don't want to make it seem like I'm that regimented person, because I'm not. I do have a business outline that I do once a year that I know I need to do certain activities that make me money. Yeah. But when it comes to time management, that's something that I struggle with.
Me too.
To be honest, to be open and honest on the podcast, I'm sure there's people listening that, they're not going to judge me. But and then there's people who are going to be like, he's got to get it together. But whatever, I'm not talking to them. I still, like, this morning, for instance, I'm on my way. I'm like, all right, 6:30, I'm going to get to the gym, work out for an hour. 7:30, I'm going to leave. I'm going to get to Charles's office by 8, right? And that's when we start. I get to the gym, and I look to my right on the chair. I left my suit at home. So now I have to drive. I have to drive back to my house and then back to the gym, and then I only get like a 25-minute workout in. But that's because that's not who I am. I'm not an A personality by any means. So like I do leave stuff places. I forget to do things. I'm not regimented like that. But as far as from a business perspective, I know what I need to do each day. And I have a general gist of what I need to accomplish in a month, week, whatever it is.
Does Type A mean that you're organized? I thought Type A just meant that you were like just a driven savage.
Well, I think the DISC, I don't know it personally, so I don't. The DISC, I think it's a personality test. That's like a better, they use it in business a lot. But there's like driver, that's like, obviously A and B doesn't tell the full story, but what I was told is A is like super organized, B you're kind of relaxed, but that's just for lack of a better phrase.
I want to talk about your marketing, right, or just marketing in general. So here, and this is what I want people on the podcast, listening to the podcast, to understand. And I said this to this guy yesterday. I'm like, listen, there's no difference between flipping houses, selling mortgages, doing social media and video like Matt R Visual for people. Business is business, and there's universal principles that are spread across all of them. Yep. Right. One, call people back. Yep. So as far as
whoever he's talking,
whoever you are, whatever group of people you are, your branding is excellent. You've done it in a very cool way. I want to talk about brewery, right?
Brewery, brewer, RE. Some people say whatever. Yeah.
I want to talk about that. I want to talk about your social media presence, your IG, especially. Like you're doing great stuff, videos, a lot of content. Do you work with somebody? How that came together? Where do the ideas come from? And what kind of an impact that has had on your business? And can you actually quantify building that personal brand?
All 50 million.
From social media.
Yeah. And I'm not talking about a person looking to buy a house sees my Instagram and hits me up. That's what a lot of people are looking for, and that's not, at least in my industry, and I think in real estate agents too, that's not practical. That's not a practical result to look for, right? Obviously that happens, and that's great when that happens. But I believe, right, so how did it start, like me taking seriously or taking social media seriously, is if I want to help the most people, if I want to remove average from real estate, I have to be where the most people are, right? Most people are on their phones on social media. 90% of the time we're on the internet, we're on Facebook or Instagram. It's a fact. It became the new internet. So I have to be all over that space if I want attention. And that's to your point with, there's general principles in business that you know, transcend industries. And I think one of them, and the one thing that I focus on a day-to-day, I want to be known by more people. Grant Cardone talks about cash flow all the time, right? Because he's in the real estate investment space, and a main theme of his is cash flow. One of the things he also says is, if people don't know you, they can't flow you, right? So I'm in the business of being known, right? I want more people to know who I am and what I do, and when that happens, I do more deals. And the best way to be known right now, and it's never been this way, you can be known overnight. Like, of course it takes consistency, which is, you're a perfect example of. But the best way to build a brand exponentially in a short time frame and be known is social media. Instagram, Facebook, everything.
100%. That's the nugget. You'll realize. I'll explain later. So it's 100%. And we're all selling in every, like, what you're saying is, if you're in any kind of business, it doesn't even matter. Like, even if you work for somebody, whatever it is, like if you have your own business, it doesn't matter what it is. Everyone sells, right? The guy who plays the Knicks, who's running around wearing the Knicks uniform, I tell the guys from Captain Permit, I'm like, put your Captain Permit shirts on when you go outside, because when you go outside, you are selling. Everybody sells all the time, and the more people that know who you are, the better off you are. So now I have a lot of agents, especially older agents. It's really, really interesting. The biggest limiting factor behind business people in general expanding on social media is 100% insecurity.
It's fear.
It's
always fear in some form.
Blows my mind. Like, I'll talk to people like, listen, you got to like up your social media presence. You should talk to Matt, whatever it is, and they're just like, I'm petrified of so I'm doing the LLS thing. So I have 15 people that I'm putting together, a group of 15 people that are essentially going to be my team.
A part of that.
Don't ruin my shit right now. We're going to get to that. Right? So and I say to them, I'm like, yo, would you be a part of my team? And like, yeah, I'm like, I need you to make a 15-second, like, I'm on Handsome Team, blah, blah, blah. And they're fucking petrified, bro.
Silent.
Like, petrified. And it's such a limiting, it's
a limiting belief.
It's crazy. So talk to me about your whole approach to social media, how you give value through social media, and how you become more known through social media.
So just to touch on like the insecurity part.
Okay.
I felt that way too. In the beginning, obviously it becomes like a muscle. It is a muscle. Like, the more you train it, the stronger you get, the more comfortable you are in front of camera, etc. And I think what happens a lot when people are building a brand, they will get ridiculed at first. Like, I know at least in my experience, let me stick with me, like, I would do stories and say stuff like this on my story, and my friends from high school and my friends I grew up with and the people in my office and not to make it sound like everybody's against you, because that's not true either, but people would say, like, who do you think you are? What are you, a motivational speaker? And now 2 years of doing that, they're like, that's what you were doing. And now they're like, all right, you know, I see the value in it, right? So that's very common, and what I think often happens is people experience that and stop. Yeah. Social media only works if you're consistent with it.
Everything in life.
True.
It's a recipe for everything in life.
Diet, like the ice cream.
I know.
I walk in, and one of your guys is walking in, and he goes, it's 8:01 or something like that, or 8:03, and he goes, "Oh, you're on the podcast today." He doesn't know me, I don't know him, and I'm like, that's an example of even the people who work in your office know consistently on Fridays somebody's coming in, and there's no, it's a non-negotiable.
Yep, 100%.
And that's really cool.
This guy I was talking to yesterday, very successful, and he said to me, and what he does, but he works for somebody else and he's not happy. He wants to go off on his own thing. He wants to be a real estate developer, and he says to me, he goes, "What's the secret?" And I'm like, "Bro, listen, I would love to sit here and tell you that there's something uniquely different or special about me, right? I don't have Matt R. Visuals Hammer. It's not." The difference is, and this is a Will Smith quote that I use all the time, which is Will Smith says, "I'm not afraid to die on a treadmill." And they're like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And he's like, "If you and I get on a treadmill together, either you're going to get off first or I'm going to die." It's that fucking simple. I'm like, it's about me doing 50 different things consistently well all the time. Like, not married, I don't have kids. Like, there's a lot of sacrifices that go along with that. Like, to your point, I have a hardcore addictive personality. I have, like, addictive gambling genes that go deep into my family for generations, which is why, like, my great-grandfather, that's why I don't drink. Another reason I don't, but I'm addicted to everything. And I understand that. I'm addicted to working 7 days a week and, buying as many houses as possible. Not so I can have, a Ferrari and all this bling. I'm wearing literally $20 worth of Old Navy clothes.
Right.
I can't help myself.
But it's you like the climb, you like the journey.
I like the rush of it, the challenge of it, right?
Yep.
Like, that's what it is. And to go back to average before, my major saying is I'm more afraid of being average than I am of being broke. And there's nothing wrong with any life you want to live. It's a very personal decision. But for me, when I think to myself, I'm like, a number of years ago, I read this thing. You probably saw it now because it repeats all the time, but it was kind of new 20 years ago, where it's like they ask people, like, on their deathbed, what's your biggest regret? And their biggest regret is, like, things that they didn't do. So I'm like, when
that's my biggest fear.
Yeah, it's like, so when I'm like 150 years old and I'm gonna die, right? I don't want to be like, you know what? Should have talked to that girl. Should have bought that building. Should have taken that class. Should have taken that risk.
Oh man, that scare, like, just hearing that scares the crap out of me.
Yeah.
I during that process where I'm like trying to find myself, asking my questions and all that stuff. In recovery, we go through a process, and one parts of the process is we have to write down all of our fears, all of our resentments, all of the times we've harmed somebody. And if you can imagine, that's a nice amount of writing, right? And one of my biggest fears that I honestly still have today is regret. And that drives me, what makes me get up in the morning.
See, when I look at you and I think about everything you've been through, I think you're so lucky to have gone through all of that shit at such a young age, because that enabled you to, like, come to a point to put it all in perspective. Where, like, people your age, like, bro, they don't know what the fuck is going on.
Yep.
They're going to clubs, they're hanging out, they're chasing chicks, whatever. They're getting into
Which
this.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, but if you're talking about, like, you're so far ahead of the curve as far as realizing who I am, what I need, what makes me happy, and how do I get there? Bro, I didn't know who the hell I was until I was 30 years old.
Right.
I've been in real estate for 5 years.
Right.
I didn't know.
Right.
So you're very, very fortunate to have gone through that to be where you are now at such a young age.
Yeah.
Talk to me about brewery.
Yes.
Did I say it right?
Yeah, sure.
Fuck. Probably not, but thank you.
No. It's so for the people who are listening, there's a nice logo, and it's spelled, because it's easier to understand when you see how it's spelled. It's BREW-RE. All right. The RE stands for real estate, right? And it's a play on words, obviously, with where they make beer, brewery.
Yeah.
Or breweries. Now, the idea, like, my experience with being in the industry young, like, I would go to these networking events and I'd sit there and ask myself, why am I here? This is boring as hell. And maybe you're not going to the same networking events as me, but I would go to these events and I'd be like, I don't want to hear this guy talk anymore. I don't want to see another slide on a PowerPoint. So I said to myself, all right, I'm going to start my own, right? If I really want to remove average from the real estate industry, there has to be a platform, multiple platforms to do that. That's a big task, right? So we created this. I don't want to make it about me either. I don't want it to be like I'm the brewery guy. It's my event or anything like that. It's like our event.
Meaning what, real estate in general?
Yeah. So mostly realtors, and the tagline or our 3 words is connect, relax, enjoy. right? So it's a very relaxed networking event, and it's just our hashtag is beer and real estate. Very simple. Like, show up, drinks on us, get a little, you know, out of your skin a little. And it's funny because I don't drink, so I'm like sharp as a tack at these events, and everybody's, you know, laughing, having fun. But that's and what happens when you remove like the formalities from a networking event, people can actually build relationships.
Yeah.
And it's not this egotistical, stuck up, like, you know, this guy's got that belt on and I got this belt on. Like, because that's what happens at a lot of network, and I feel it in the room.
Really?
I think so. At least between the mortgage people. The mortgage people are very, very.
What is it? The Hermes belt versus the
whatever it is.
belt?
Whatever it is. Like, it's a competition of who has the nicest watch. I don't want brewery to turn into that. I was trying to remove that from the networking space.
I'm trying to remove douchey
yes.
from networking.
And it's mostly coming from the mortgage people. If I'm completely honest, it's usually from the mortgage people.
Yes, that was awesome.
Yeah, but that's sort of the vision, and one day I do want it to be like a national thing where there's like a Florida chapter of brewery and a Virginia chapter of brewery, and it's a platform that can be national.
The anti-douche.
Yes, the anti-douche networking event.
Let me ask you this: what does the future look like for you? Like, you're really young. What are your goals? What are your dreams? What do the next 100 years have in store for you? If
I live to 124, that would be a really cool thing.
Could happen, man.
It could happen with modern medicine.
You
never know. I have it like so dialed in where it's like I know how I want to wake up every morning. I like know what I want to wake up to and do within those first few hours. Like, I have a picture, and I've spent so much time thinking about my ideal life that it's like super dialed in. So on a general level, I want to be the number one loan officer or, you know, mortgage guy in New York, period, statewide. And that's career-wise. And then I also want to...
That's volume business, right?
Yeah.
Do you know who the number one person is right now? Do you know how much they're lending?
A lot more.
Okay.
Like, yeah, significant. I mean, like, my numbers to some people is like, wow, 2 years in the business, that's insane. And then to some people, it's like, that's what I do per month, you know? So there's this wide gap. Same
everything.
With everything.
Everything.
I'd like to say I'm you know, and then I put these limiting things on it for my age and for 2 years in the business. I don't even look at it like that. I'm in this business 30 years from now, you know? But definitely the number one mortgage lender in New York. I want to empower other people to make good money as well. That's definitely part of it, like pull people up as I'm climbing.
It's very important.
And I also want to be known as not your average lender, right? Where it's like, I'm not only going to help your and now I'm talking to real estate agents specifically, but I'm not only going to help your customers close on time and keep the lines of communication open. That should be standard. Unfortunately, it's not. On top of all of that, I want to help you with your business. And there's tons of different ways that I help realtors grow their business. And a lot of the realtors that I speak to will attest to it. There's like numerous, and I have it all written down, like a value proposition that I do. I want to help realtors make more money, you know? Because if you can say as a realtor, my loan officer not only does all of this stuff, right? And he's closing the hard deals and he's doing all the weird loans and all that stuff, right? All the bells and whistles. But he's also helped me go from 12 transactions to 24 transactions a year. That's powerful. And now I've not only helped, you know, my team make a living, I've helped realtors make more of a living. I've helped more consumers get to their end goal. It's all about helping more people.
It's just a movement of positivity, and
yes.
when it gets going, it gets to the point where it becomes unstoppable.
Yep.
What about your personal life? Meaning, like, we give up a lot to do what we do.
Yes.
And it's hard.
Yes.
So, I mean, how does that affect you going forward, even now? Because we all, that's something we all struggle with, myself included.
I struggle with work-life balance.
We're like
work.
Well, when you have an addictive personality, there is no such thing as balance.
Right, and that's my main flaw and strength. You know, as far as personal life, there's like, you know, what I want to accomplish this year, which is like get a dog and a condo in Long Island City. I want to move to Long Island City. That's like always been.
What kind of dog?
A Belgian Malinois. It's like a special forces dog. It's the dog in the military, aside from the German Shepherd. It's like a compact German Shepherd, which I'm actually putting the deposit down hopefully today on one that will be here next year. Anyway, so that's like my short term, like what I want to, but from like in life, like I want a smoking hot wife that I wake up to every morning. We have our, you know, moment together. And
whatever that is.
So like I said, it's like super dialed in. Like I've spent time like really diving into what my ideal life is. I wake up, I'm with my wife, I work out, I pray, meditate, I get to work, and you know, I leave at 7, maybe 6, 5 o'clock, and I go home and I do it all over again, and then travel and all that stuff. Like
kids
definitely, yeah, definitely. I don't know how many. I'm not like a girl. Women like know how many, what, you know, how tall they're gonna be. Like they know all that stuff. I want kids. That's all I can say in that respect.
So all I'll say is, as a 40-year-old man speaking to a 24-year-old, right? And this is, and I mean this in the most positive way, because this is like when you'll truly be tested, and I know that when that happens, you'll come out on top. But always remember that everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
So just as you go through life, remember that.
Of course.
But I have the utmost confidence that you'll achieve everything you want. And the plan, it's great. Like I always tell people, I'm like, you got to have a plan because it's super important. But the plan, don't get hung up on the plan because the plan can change. Mm-hmm. But if you don't move, if you're not moving, if you're not doing things, nothing's going to happen.
Right.
But
you can't bulldoze through everything. You got to be agile and.
I mean, listen. You might be on target, on path to marry that smoking hot woman, and then something might change. You might realize, I like them when they're 250 with a hair lip. You never know. The point is, you got to get moving. So the final part of this is this. So if you see that board behind you?
Yeah.
It says Team Handsome LLS 2020 Man of the Year.
That's it.
I'm putting 15 people together that I think are the most influential, just awesome people that I want to be around, that I want to like take this journey with. And there's one spot left. That spot's for you if you want it.
I absolutely want it. I'd be proud to take it, man.
I appreciate it, man. It means a lot to me.
Absolutely.
Yo, you're the fucking man. How do people get in touch with you? How do they follow you on social media? Whatever information you want to put out there.
I'm on Instagram. I'm not your average lender. And then my cell phone number, I welcome phone calls, 516-265-4244.
All right. And obviously, I'm the Handsome Homebuyer. 516-777-SOLD. If you got that house that smells like cat pee, dated from the 1960s, or anything real estate related. And obviously, if you have a permit problem, the captain's here to fly in and save the day. 516-513-8838. That's a wrap.
Thank you.
Orgulloso estoy de mi herencia judía. Benjamín Lev Ben Shlomo, cuando me llaman a la torre así me llaman.